run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that ye may attain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it, attain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. Today, if I had to speak on the subject or use for a topic we'd like to talk about for a brief moment, I believe I'll run on. I believe I'll run on. The contemporary English version reads like this. You know that many runners enter a race, and only one of them wins the prize. So run to win. Athletes work hard to win a crown that cannot last. But we do it for a crown that will last forever. I don't run without a goal. I don't box by beating my fist in the air. I keep my body under control and make it my slave. So I won't lose out after telling the good news to others. Now there are those who will call this world we live in a rat race of life. So know y'all hear it every day. I got to get up and go out here to this rat race, especially on Monday morning. As humans, we get up, we go to work, we race around. We always in a hurry. We seek to gather all the riches that seem to be around us. All of us want to have some materialistic things. Some people in this life, they are motivated by power. Power over others. Power over self. To control, they would rather be giving orders than taking orders. They want to be in control of someone else rather than being controlled by someone else. Others seek wealth above all else, money, diamonds, precious metal, real estate. You know, I'm going to get all I can get while I'm getting. But one thing we must remember that one day we're going to have to leave this world. And when we leave this world, out of all the materialistic things we done gained, we can't take none of it with us. Others run a race for beauty to satisfy their pride. Some people run for fame, to be well known and loved. All of these things have one thing in common, though. They do it just to attain a corruptible crown. Now I'm going to try to set this story up for those of you who may not be familiar with the circumstances that was taking place in the city of Corinth. You see, the apostle Paul wrote his epistle to reveal the problems, the pressures, and the struggles of the church in Corinth. Corinth was one of the most important cities in Greece during Paul's days. Not only was it the bustling hub of worldwide commerce, but also was most known for a degraded culture and many idolatrous religions. A lot of us here in Atlanta understand what it means to be the place that's happening. That's what Corinth was. It was a city that was jumping. You know, back in my days, I used to love to come to Atlanta when I was a young man because I know there was something going on downtown. Oh, y'all gonna act like I'm the only one that did that. But the church in Corinth was suffering from factions, cliques, lawsuits, immorality, questionable practice, and the abuse of the Lord's Supper. Also, it was suffering from the abuse of spiritual gifts. You name it, and the church in Corinth suffered from it. So Paul writes this letter to correct those problems, to give the Corinthians a message of hope. And what we stop by here today to let you all know, my brothers and sisters, that there is hope for all of us. A message of hope is needed because when I look into some of the eyes of our youth, I see despair. I see upset. I see them downturned and everything going on in their lives, but something good. When I look into some of your eyes, some of my friends' eyes, I see anger and I see confusion. I see disgust. A message of hope is needed because in our communities, some of our people have lost their joy. To put it another way, I say it like this. The wood is wet, your wick is short. Your transmission is leaking. Some of your engine done blown a rod. To make it simple, I would say that our community is suffering because the fire has gone out. You know, if you don't keep putting something on the fire, eventually it's going to burn out. The fire in our church, in our communities, y'all wonder why the kids do what they do, because we done let the fire burn out. Here in the text, we see Paul comparing himself to a racer in the ancient Greece Isthmus Games. The Isthmus Games are what inspired today's Olympics. Some 2,000 years ago, Paul used this analogy of these games to get his point across to the Corinthians. Those of you who have had the privilege of being a member of a track team, y'all will agree that it's never easy to run a race. Those of you that done played some kind of sport, y'all know that it's not easy to get your crown. It's never easy to run a race, especially if you don't have confidence in the track you're running on. Nowadays, professional runners, they often go to the racetrack a few days in advance, way ahead of the big race. When you think about the NASCAR racers, they go to the track a couple of days early to get a feel of the track. Once they get out and they get the feel of the track, they get to stretch the track, they get to test the track, they get to look at the surface to see where some lumps and some dips might be. Anybody examine that track today? You look to see if you got any lumps and dips in your track. This track allows the runner to come very familiar with this track. Because knowing the track inside and out helps you to understand where you got to speed up and slow down at. Now, having said that this morning, I just want to know, are you on the right track in your life? Have you taken the time to check your track for dips, for rocks, for hurdles, for anything else that might slow you down? See, a lot of times we got to get rid of some friends because they slow us down. A lot of times you have to cut some people loose. You know, a lot of y'all people are going to talk about they think they this and they think they that. Well, I think I'm trying to get to a place that you're not trying to go. You know, only the best athletes make it to the Olympics. To make it, one must be totally qualified. Not just physically, but you must be mentally prepared as well. This qualification requires months and months of intense training. But all of this dedication, all of this hard work, all of this commitment to excellence by the runner reminds me that it's all for a corruptible crown. But the Apostle Paul, speaking of the winner receiving a crown made out of olive branches, a corruptible crown that starts to wither the moment it is placed on the champion head. Paul encouraged the Corinthians to seek an incorruptible crown, a crown that will never wither, a crown that will never fade away. Those of you that are familiar with sports know the fastest race in track and field is the 100-yard dash. They done changed it, now it's the 100-meter dash. There are those who can run this distance in under 10 seconds. In this race, every step is crucial. Every second is precious. One simple mistake can mean the difference between gold and silver. One itsy-bitsy mistake can mean the difference between qualifying and being eliminated. One little problem can be the difference between finishing a race or going home early. That's why one of the first things taught before completing in this event is to never ever look to your right. Never ever look to your left. But you always look to the finish line. I can remember in my younger days when I ran a little track, I was a little slimmer. Coach always say, don't worry about who's behind you. You got to keep going so you can stay in front of them. The example of the runner is a lesson that we can use in our everyday life, which is when you're running the race of life. Don't slow down. Stop looking to your right, worried about what somebody else is doing. Don't slow down looking to your left, listening to all the gossip that's going around town. But keep your eyes on the finish line. You got to keep your eyes on the prize. Paul gives us another lesson about running over in the book of Philippians, where he says, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. See, a lot of y'all realize and think that when you get to a certain point in life that you got there all because of yourself, that you don't attain everything that you can attain. But Paul said, I count not myself to have apprehended. But there's one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind me. See, a lot of y'all can't go forth because you keep picking up some baggage that you had from last year. You keep picking up some baggage that you had from 10 years ago. Oh, people done you wrong 50 years ago, but you still pick it up. You're still picking up that baggage. Don't waste your time worrying about the circumstances of what happened yesterday. Worried about the distraction that might come in your life. Because as long as you live on this earth, you're going to have some ups and some downs. You're going to have some distractions to knock you out your way. You're going to be slowed down every once in a while. But you got to keep your focus. You must remain in the race. Paul is telling us, don't get caught up in the moment. You know, a lot of times we get caught up in what's going on in our lives. But I'm reminded of Peter on the night when him and the disciples was caught in the storm out at sea. All of us know the story, how Jesus had fed 5,000 with 2 loaves of bread. And after he had finished feeding and performing this miracle, he sent the disciples on to the other side. While they was out on the Sea of Galilee, the Bible tells me that a storm arose. And Jesus came about the third watch of the night, walking on the water. Well, and when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they got scared. But Jesus gave them a sort of joy. He gave them some peace. He told them, peace, be still. He let them know that it is I. Be a good cheer. Peter is the kind of person that I like. He realized that it was Jesus. And when he saw it was Jesus, he said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me to come. What one thing Peter messed up at was when Jesus told him to come, he stepped out of the boat And he did start walking on water. But he do like some of us do. He got distracted. Now, I don't know why Peter got distracted, but all of a sudden he took his eyes off the Lord. I don't know why he took his eyes off the Lord, but maybe he got caught up in the moment. I don't know why he took his eyes off the Lord. Maybe he started thinking about what was going on. Maybe he even heard the disciples saying, Peter, you know you can't walk on no water. And he took his eyes off Jesus because he looked at what they were saying. And he started to sink. But when he started to sink, he realized he had somebody that he could call on. He said, Lord, save me. What I want to tell you is, when you take your eyes off the prize, when you lose your focus, you start to sink in this life. When you take your eyes off the prize, you start realizing your distractions. You may run into these problems. You may encounter some of these obstacles. But I'm reminded of some Old Testament saints that ran into some obstacles, that had some problems. I'm reminded of 3 young Hebrew men by the name of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They was dumped into a fiery pit by King Nebuchadnezzar, but they refused to bow down or worship any golden image. You're going to have to stop bowing down to false idols. You're going to have to stop bowing down to what your friends said. You got to realize that you got a prize that you're pressing on to. When Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace, even before he threw the kings in there, the young man told him before he threw them in, even if our God don't do it, I know he's able. We're not going to bow down. What you got to realize is that Jesus is able to do anything. No matter what you're going through in life, no matter what people tell you, no matter what your job is doing to you. Oh, come on, somebody. No matter how bad your friends done treated you, God is able to bring you out. I'm reminded of Job, who was diseased, bankrupt, wounded, and close to death. He was discouraged by his friend. He was forsaken by his wife. But through all of his troubles, he kept his eyes on the prize. I think about David. He could have walked around and sat on the throne in his purple and gold robe. But I find him in the 23rd Psalm saying, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. I can think about my Savior, my Redeemer, God's only begotten Son, the second person of the Trinity, Mary's baby, who played blessed while he hung and bled on Calvary cross. Not because of what he said, but because of what he did. During his time of pain and suffering, he prayed not for himself, but he prayed for those that are responsible for his crucifixion. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. What I'm trying to tell you, sometimes you got to pray for your enemies. Sometimes you got to pray for those that don't treat you right. When they start mistreating you on the job, don't raise hell. Don't get mad. Look to the hills. From which cometh all your help. Give it to the Lord in prayer. What I came by here today to tell you is to run the race. Keep your eyes on the prize. Don't get caught up in the moment. When problems come in your life, look to Jesus. Don't run to another church. Don't run to another man. Don't run to another woman. Stop telling your friends your problems. You got a problem at home. Your friend know more about it. Well, We need to start looking to Jesus. We need Jesus in our homes. We need Jesus on our jobs. Most of all, we need Jesus in our schoolhouses. We need Jesus in our hearts to control and regulate our lives. We need to look to Jesus in our service too. We need to look to Jesus in our solitude. We need to look to Jesus in our gratitude. No matter what you're going on in this life, you need to look to Jesus. See, a lot of us miss out on the prize because instead of looking to Jesus, we start looking to other folks. And the more you look to other folks, the worse your problem gonna get. Oh, come on, somebody. If you be honest with yourself, you can find out that you suffered the most when you told somebody else what was going on in your life. You're going to have to run for the prize. No matter what, don't give up. No matter how bad it look, keep your eyes on the prize. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if I strain every nerve in my body. I don't care if I pull every muscle. I'm going to keep my eyes on the prize. I'm going to press on, my brothers and sisters. No matter what's going on, you got to press. Press on. Amen. God bless you.